causing us to shrink our public expenditures while the private wealth multiplies. The social net is fraying, the infrastructure needs decline. I'm thinking of my favorite Far Side cartoon, where the dinosaur is on the stage, and he's talking to a whole group of dinosaurs. He says, "Gentlemen, we have a problem. The glaciers are melting, the climate is warming, and we have brains the size of peas." But now I think it's our hearts that need to grow in order to address these challenges. We've seen the state government spending more on prisons than on higher education. We've seen the burden of financing higher education go to students who end up graduating with onerous loans that now I think need to be forgiven. And healthcare policies captive to the insurance companies and to the pharmaceuticals. Our neighbors to the north pay 40% less for their drugs than we do. Why? Because our government refuses to negotiate on our behalf for the benefit of the people, the better pricing. These are gross misallocations of resources, and they're the result of policy choices. So make no mistake, deregulation in the name of the quote-unquote free market, it's a cover. It's a cover for the rich and the powerful to set the rules that benefit them. The frame should be what rules of the market do we agree on together so that the function of the market results in the social good. And that means rooting corporations in a charter to serve the public interest. Our financial system, which is the focus today, has been increasingly disconnected from the real economy and in many ways is a destructive force, multiplying claims on wealth and speculative trading that serves no useful economic or capital formation function, creating financial bubbles and instabilities which destroy savings and assets and undermine our economic security. The robo-signing mortgages, the packaging of mortgage-backed securities built to fail so the folks who sell it can then profit when it defaults. That's wrong. And the financial system as well has been driving the liquidation of natural capital and undermining the very ecological commons on which our life is based that we need to give intact to future generations. Where were the regulators during this process? They were asleep at the wheel or under the thumb of the moneyed interests. So we have to start, as I understand Occupy to do, with the move to amend, to get corporate money out of politics, get the money out of politics, and declare that corporations are not persons, but people are persons. Olympia is organizing a teach-in the weekend of the 11th through the 13th. We have some wonderful resource people, including Ricky Ott from Cordova, who was involved in the Post Valdez work and in some of the BP Gulf cleanup and community organizing work, teaching on the move to amend. The banks, the hedge funds, the private equity companies, they've become the largest source of cash, and they've captured both parties. Look at the Clinton era, when the Glass-Steagall Act was repealed, and the government refused to regulate derivatives, the explosion of which has been part of the instability in our crash, in our financial system. Journalist Bill Moyers was asked this question and responded to this question in a recent speech. Why occupy Wall Street? And he responded, because Wall Street has occupied America. Since the fall of 2008, when the crash occurred, when all these financial imbalances finally manifested, and the bubbles burst, the driver behind our economic policy, from Bush into Obama, has been to try to return the system to normal, which for them means returning the banks to profitability and the financial institutions to profitability. Well, they've achieved that with 0.25% money from the Fed, but it has not trickled down to the real economy with these high unemployment rates. The truth is also there is no normal to return to, because we're at a system change point, a phase change point. We need to be about the business of building a sustainable economy that's both just and ecologically sound for the long term. We know this, and now is the time to face that whole constellation of problems. And I believe our solutions have three aspects. One, I mentioned already, the move to amend, to get the money out of politics, and I would add to that free media time for rational political discourse. Second, there's a whole host of international and national and even state economic policies that we can put in play, from the financial transactions tax internationally, the linking creation of money to the funding of public goods. Many means to do that. That includes potentially a state bank here in Washington, where we put the power of banking and the power of money creation into a public purpose, a mission-driven purpose, to the systematic forgiveness and rescheduling of unpayable mortgage debt and student loan debt. And I want to salute the youth. I believe in youth. That's an issue of justice. Youth is truth. So keep your truth meters strong, young people out there. Third, and I also want to mention, Jim, there's teach-ins coming, right? So all these different policies, progressive tax reforms, tax shifts, ecological taxes, new public-based financial institutions that will put capital in service to the real economy. A lot of those policy details will be the subject of future teach-ins that a lot of local experts and other local economists and good evergreen professors will be here to help lead. The third type of solution is building our community and our local economy. Our local economy in food, in energy, in healthcare, in services, in housing, in transport, all must grow and be revitalized, and we can put our public policy tools and capital in service to that. In the face of peak resources, in the paradoxes of high unemployment, in the midst of unmet needs, we actually need to shrink our supply chains. Our supply chains are overextended. We need to produce more locally so we are more sustainable. And we can do that through a range of institutions: for-profit, not-for-profit, social business, public business, cooperatives. There's a range of different institutions that can be built. There's an economist term for this. It's called social capital. Social capital and building social capital is part of our solution. And our carrying capacity ecologically will be a function of our caring capacity, how well we can care for each other. We've got to bring it back home, produce more locally. This is one that we own, that we can do here. And the good news, and there's lots of good news, the good news is that we have some great organizations and local leadership dedicated to building the local economy, from the folks at Sustainable South Sound, T.J. Johnson, Chris Hawkins, Marie Poland, who are developing the local food groups, conducting the Buy Local campaign that you may hear of, and beyond Buy Local is Produce More Local. Enterprise for Equity, Lisa Smith, which is providing business development services for small businesses. Thurston Energy, which is hooked up with Generations Credit Union and OB Credit Union to offer attractive loans for efficiency investments in your homes to save money. Thurston Climate Action, the Transitions Movement, the Co-op Development Center, all these strong institutions, including some of our local financial institutions, Olympia Federal Savings, Heritage Bank, and the credit unions. These institutions root capital in community and will help us build our local economy. So in closing, I want to call on the principles of nonviolence in the midst of this, and the power of nonviolence. Gandhi called it satyagraha, the power of truth. And I grew up in Bellevue in the Vietnam War era, during the peace movement, the Earth Day, the Civil Rights movement. Do the ends justify the means? That's a question that's come up in social movement. I would like to offer a no to that, and instead rephrase it and contend that the means become the ends. How we conduct ourselves in this movement will characterize us and build the outcomes that we're seeking to build. We act with integrity, we evolve our local economy, we learn to care for one another, build economic security in relationships as well as in our productive assets. That's a great way forward for us. I'm very proud to be part of it.